Krishna Kirtana Gana Natana Pano Premamritam Manidhi Dhira Dhira Jana Priyau Priyakarau Nirmasaram Pujitau Sri Chaitanya Kripa Bharau Bhubi Bhuva Bharavahantarakam Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghujagam Sri Jiva Gopalakam Krishna Kirtana Gana Natana Param Premamritam Banidhi Dhira Dhira Jana Priyam Priyakaram Nirmasaram Pujitam Nana Shastra Vicharanayika Nipunam Sadharma Sanghastapakam Lokanang Hitakarinam Tribhuvane Mannam Saranyakanam Nana Shastra Vicharanayika Nipunam Sadharma Sanghastapakam Lokanang Hitakarinam Tribhumane Mannam Saranakaram Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajananandena Matvalikam Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghujagam Sri Jiva Gopalakam Krishna Kirtana Gana Natana Param Premamritam Banidhi Sri Chaitanya Kripa Bharau Bhubi Bhuva Bharavahantarakam Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghujagam Sri Jiva Gopalakam Sri Gauranga Gunanugandana Vidho
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to the Prabhupada Disciples Association. and the Hare Krishna Society, and good to see you, Vijaya Pandit. In Italy, I know you're on traveling Sankirtan, and he's doing a very commendable service to Srila Prabhupada. He's printing books in Italian, translating them, and he's also on a marathon for the whole month of December to go door to door and distribute the books. Door to door is a very effective way of meeting people and connecting with them and distributing the transcendental nectar of Srila Prabhupada's message to them. So our hats off to him and his efforts to do that. And if you're interested in supporting his work, you may donate to us at the Hare Krishna Society charitable organization. We've been incorporated since 2002. And just recently, we, by Krishna's mercy, we started a campaign to publish some books of Srila Prabhupada. And that was very successful. And we're moving ahead with that, by the way, just so everybody knows. And victory to the service that all of you have participated in with us. It is a collective effort, and you'll be blessed. We do not, I've been mentioning it at our classes, but we are volunteers to this program. And, I'm happily engaged in devotional service to please our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, which is the goal of the devotee. One who says he is my devotee is not my devotee, Krishna says in the Nectar of Devotion. But he who is the devotee of my devotee, he is my devotee. So like that, you work in disciplic succession. And in this way, you build up your credits, spiritual credits in devotional service. And in this way, you can make advancement in spiritual life. The bottom line is service. That's it. Bhakti Yoga. We read it in the Bhagavad Gita, excuse me, every day that you have to take up service. Okay, study is good, and memorize verses, so all right, okay. And but at the same time, really, after you finish your memorization, then you implement that service in some important way. And one of the most important things is the distribution of books. So like I said, Vijaya Pandit has a program. If you want to donate, you can come to our website, and you can be in touch with either myself or Yashodanandana Prabhu, and we'll give you the specific information and how you can donate to our society. And in this way, we can advance you need Lakshmi. Let's be real here. It's not that things go on without any Lakshmi. Look at the way that they waste money with these useless wars. And Ramaragava, they spend billions of dollars killing each other instead of channeling the money into helping people and educating people in the science of self-realization. They spend it on killing each other. So this is very important. And go to our channel, Hare Krishna Society, YouTube. We have a channel. We have over 1,000 hours, over 1,000 hours of broadcast that our team has put together. And we want to thank all the people that are co-hosting our efforts here at the programming, the Zoom calls. because without your support, things do get very difficult. Myself and Yashoda are not really that astute when it comes to this technology stuff. But with the teamwork that we have put together, we're marching forward. And these classes are very valuable, as you know, because with association of like-minded God brothers, you get inspired. Yes, this is an opportunity to become inspired to carry on with the fight against Maya, because this is a war, just like the Bhagavad Gita is a war, a war between Maya and Krishna. And Krishna is encouraging Arjuna to take up the battle and surrender to him and take shelter of him. And in this way, you'll overcome the difficulties of material life. Yes, it's the way it goes. There's no in between. The more you do, the more selfless you are in your service, the more you advancement. I have a change of weather here from Mexico. But, what are you going to do? It's the material body. The material body is subject to all kinds of difficulties. But we forge on, and Prabhupada always did that. He was never concerned about his physical body in the sense that he did not he sacrificed everything for the service of Krishna. And we'll get back in the near future to reading the diaries. But today, we're going to carry on. And I wanted to mention that Yashoda Nandana Prabhu really rung a bell with me when he said the other day at our program that when you read the Nectar of Devotion, you're actually associating with Rupa Goswami. So this Vani presence that Prabhupada is blessing us with, and the association of Rupa Goswami, is a great opportunity for everybody here in this program and everybody that comes to these programs to make real advancement in spiritual life by association with the disciplic succession coming down from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Very important. Don't minimize our group. We do our group, all of us, all of you. We don't minimize the words of the spiritual master. We don't. In fact, we accept them 100% as the truth of why we're born, not in between. People wonder why we speak like this. Because there is so much compromise, especially in the ISKCON group. I have an aversion to it, personally, you know that, attachment and aversion. I have an aversion to people that compromise. I may not say it to them, but I think it. Why are you compromising? Don't do it. And we're going to go to the Nectar of Devotion. I've been reading the Nectar of Devotion, and it's just terrific. So we'll read a section from chapter 13. I apologize for the cough here. The importance of chanting Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, is very strongly stressed in the second canto. First chapter, 11th verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the following way. Shukadeva Goswami tells Maharaj Parikshit, "My dear king, if one is spontaneously attached to the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it is to be understood that he's attained the highest perfectional stage." Sorry for interrupting, but I had that realization, Ram Raghava, when I was at the airport in Mexico, that there's tens of thousands of people in that airport, tens of thousands, there's 25 million people in that city. And I was the only one at the airport chanting the holy names. The only one. So if you have developed an opportunity or a taste for chanting, you're blessed. Because all the other living entities are simply wasting their time going forward in the cycle of birth and death. It is specifically mentioned that the karmis who are aspiring after the fruit of results of their activities, the salvationists who are aspiring to become one with the Supreme Person, and the yogis who are aspiring after mystic perfections, can achieve the results of all perfectional stages simply by chanting the Maha Mantra. Shukadeva uses the word Nirnitam, which means it is already decided. He was a liberated soul, and therefore he could not accept anything which was not conclusive. So Shukadeva Goswami especially stresses that it is already concluded that one who has come to the stage of chanting Hare Krishna mantra with determination and steadiness must be considered to have already passed the trials of fruitive activities, mental speculations, and mystic yoga. The same thing is confirmed in the Adi Purana by Krishna. While addressing Arjuna, he says, anyone who is engaged in chanting my transcendental name must be considered to be always associating with me. And I may tell you frankly that for such a devotee, I become easily purchased, Vijaya Pandit. In the Padma Purana, it is also stated that chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is present only on the lips of a person who has for many births worshipped Vasudeva. It is further said in the Padma Purana, there is no difference between the holy name of the Lord and the Lord himself. As such, the holy name is as perfect as the Lord himself, in fullness, purity, and eternity. What does this tell us? Vani, sound vibration. Prabhupada's sound, the sound of the holy name. These are the means for getting out of this material world, not Vabu. That is a mistake. As such, the holy name is as perfect as the Lord himself, in fullness, purity, and eternity. The holy name is no material sound vibration, nor has it any material contamination. Either does Prabhupada's books. The holy name cannot, therefore, be chanted offenselessly by one who has failed to purify his senses. In other words, materialistic senses cannot properly chant the holy names of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. But by adopting this chanting process, one is given a chance to actually purify himself, though he may very soon chant offenselessly. So you keep practicing. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has recommended that everyone chant the Hare Krishna mantra just to cleanse the dust from the heart. If the dust of the heart is cleansed away, then one can actually understand the importance of the holy name. For persons who are not inclined to clean the dust from their heart and want to keep things as they are, it is not possible to derive the transcendental result of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. So it's qualifying this chanting. One should therefore be encouraged to develop his service attitude towards the Lord, because this will help him to chant without any offense. And so, here it is critical, under the guidance of a spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, His Divine Grace, disciple is trained simultaneously to render service and at the same time to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. So they go hand in hand, just like a train goes on two tracks. You chant the holy name and you render service, just like we're asking people to participate in our book distribution publishing. As soon as one develops his spontaneous service attitude, he can immediately understand the transcendental nature of the holy names of the Maha Mantra. That's the result. And that is a great achievement in your life, a very great achievement. In the Padma Purana, there's a statement about the importance of living at holy places like Mathura or Dwarka. It is stated to travel to different places of pilgrimage means to attain emancipation from material bondage. This emancipation, however, is not the highest perfectional stage. After attaining the liberated stage, one has to become engaged in devotional service to the Lord. Superior. After attainment of the Brahma Bhuta liberation stage, one can further advance to engagement in devotional service. So this attainment of transcendental loving devotional service to the Lord is the goal of life. The goal of life. And this is coming from Srila Prabhupada and Rupa Goswami. So we have to listen to this and then act. And it can be achieved very easily for one who lives in Mathura Mandal, even for a few seconds. So we create our own environment. And we'll end up by saying it's not people who talk the walk. It's people who walk the talk. People can say whatever they want. But unless you demonstrate by your own personal, selfless surrender to the mission of Srila Prabhupada, that is our business, is to surrender everything in the service of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, our spiritual master and our guide back out of this material world to the spiritual realm of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. So thank you, everyone. And thank you for listening very carefully to Nectar of Devotion. We'll move forward with the next stage of our program, which is the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And please chant along when Prabhupada is singing. And then we'll have our reading and discussion with His Grace, Yashodanandana Prabhu, one of our favorite, absolutely, devotees in the entire universe. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Sai. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara जगतार्य चित्तर सदस्यमान भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय, नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद से अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गौ गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिवर्धन की जय, वृंदावन धाम की जय, नवद्वीप धाम की जय, स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय, गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय। All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you from Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1:1. Narayanam namaskritya Narayanam namaskritya Naram cheva narottamam Naram cheva narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyāsam Devim Saraswatim Vyāsam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Tato Jayam Mudirayet. One should utter the means of conquest Srimad Bhagavatam after offering respectful obeisances, one, to the personality of God at Narayana, two, to the Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, three, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then four, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, from Srimad Bhagavatam 1-4. Thank you very much, Ram Raghava Prabhu. Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam. This reading is being conducted from the original 1962 version of Srimad Bhagavatam, published by Srila Prabhupada himself in New Delhi, India. We will, as we do every week, we will be reading a few selected verses from the first canto, second chapter, which explains the meaning and the benefit of hearing this powerful transcendental literature. Yadanudhyasina yukta karamagrantini bandhanam Chindanti kovidastasya kona kuryat kataratim. Intelligent persons do cut off the internet of the knot of reactionary work by remembrance of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not give attention to his message? Shushrushoho sardadhanasya vasudeva katarushihi Styan mahat sevaya vipra punyatirtani sevanat. O the twice-born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all ranges of vice, a standard of great service is done, and as the result of such great service, affinity in the messages of Vasudeva is made possible. Srinvatam svakataha Krishnaha punyasravana kirtanaha hridyantastoya badrani vidunoti suritsatam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is also the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, does cleanse the desire for material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge for hearing his, Krishna's messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nashtaprayeshu vabhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. By regular attendance in the Bhagavatam class, or rendering service unto the pure devotees, all that is inauspicious in the heart of a candidate becomes destroyed almost to nil, and thus loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, comes into being an irrevocable fact. Tadarajastamo bhava kamalo bhadayaschaye chetayetera naviddam stitam sattve prasidati. As soon as irrevocable loving service is fixed up in one's heart, at that time the effect of the nature's mode of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankerings, etc., do disappear from one's heart, and he becomes fixed up in the mode of goodness, which makes him completely happy. Evam prasanna manasu bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavat tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayati. Thus, when one is positively fixed up in a mode of unalloyed goodness, the enlivened-minded man, affected by contact of devotional service of the Lord, can positively know scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead to the stage of liberation from all material association. Vidyate hridaya grantis chidyante sarvasamshaya shiyante chasya karmani drishtaevatmanishwari. The knot of one's heart is thus pierced, and all misgivings are cut into pieces. The chain of fruitive actions are terminated, along with the seeing of oneself, the dominating factor. We will proceed with our reading of this week's verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. This week we are reading from Canto 1, Chapter 6, text number 1. Sutta uvacha evam nishamya bhagavan devarshi janma karmacha bhuyaha paprachatam brahman Vyāsaha satyavati sutaha. Sutta uvacha. Sutta said, evam, thus, nishamya, hearing, Bhagavan, the powerful incarnation of God, Devarishe, of the great sage amongst the gods, Janma, birth, Karma, work, Papracha, ask, Tam, him, Brahman, O the Brahmins, Vyāsa, Vyasadeva, Satyavati Sutta, the son of Satyavati. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Sutta said, thus hearing all about Sri Nārada Muni's birth and activities, Vyasadeva, the incarnation of God and son of Satyavati, asked as follows, O the Brahmin. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Vyasadeva was further inquisitive to know about the perfection of Nārada-ji, and therefore he wanted to know about him more and more. In this chapter, Nārada-ji will describe how he was able to have flash of audience of the Lord while he was absorbed in the transcendental thought of separation from the Lord, and when it was too much painful for him. Text number 2. Sri Vyāsa uvacha Bhikshubir viprasite vignan adeshtibistava vartamana vayasyadye tatah kim makarod bhavan. Sri Vyāsa uvacha. Sri Vyasadev said, Bhikshubir, by the great mendicants, Viprasvasiti, having departed from there for other places, Vijnana, scientific knowledge in transcendence, Adhistribihi, those who had instructed, Tava, of your, Vartamana, present, Vayasya, of the duration of life, Adye, before the beginning of, Tataha, after that, Kim, what, Akarad, did do, Bhavan, your good self. Translation. Sri Vyasadeva asked Sri Nārada ji, what did he do after the departure of the great sages who had instructed him about scientific transcendental knowledge before the beginning of the present birth? Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Vyasadeva himself was the disciple of Nārada ji, and therefore it is natural to be anxious to hear from him. What did he do after initiation from the spiritual masters? He wanted to follow Nārada's footprints in order to attain to the same perfect stage of life. This inquisitiveness of the disciple to inquire from the spiritual master is an essential factor to march progressively on the spiritual path. This process is technically known as Saddharma Precha. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadati Visheshatah Adadana Strinam Danter Idam Yachi Punaha Punaha Srimad Rupa Padam Bhoja Dhulishyam Janma Janmani Amsho Bhagavato Smyaham Sadadaso Asmi Sarabata Tat Kripa Pekshako Nityam Tat Preshta Satkaromi Swam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I want to basically point out something in one of these purports here, which I feel is very important, because we know that there are still many ongoing discussions on the internet amongst many devotees with regard to this topic of initiations, disciplic succession, proper connection with the spiritual master, the path of bhakti, and all these various interrelated topics. So it is very important that we really see and understand things from Srila Prabhupada's perspective. because there are many persons who approach these various topics from many different angles, from many different persons and different advisors from different neo-mats, advisors from different sampradayas, different advisors from among Srila Prabhupada's disciples, sometimes senior disciples. There's a lot of different observations, opinions, and interesting angles that people are looking at these various subjects. If you look at this purport on text number 2, it says, first the verse says, Sri Vyasadeva Sri Nārada Ji, what did he do after the departure of the great sages who had instructed him about scientific transcendental knowledge before the beginning of the present birth? Text number 2. In the purport, it says, Srila Prabhupada explained, Vyasadeva himself was the disciple of Nārada Ji, and therefore it is natural to be anxious to hear from him what did he do after initiation from these spiritual masters, plural. He wanted to follow Narada's footprints in order to attain to the same perfect stage of life. Now, if you look at the end of the first sentence in this purport, Prabhupada is using the plural. What did he do after initiation from the spiritual masters? Now, Prabhupada uses the term initiation in many different contexts in his various books and writings. The traditional, and we'll deal with that, the traditional understanding in India before the advent of the modern age and modern telecommunications and airplanes and all of these modern ways of travel, is that some guru would be in some village and the disciple would approach him, he would receive instruction, receive initiation, study the Vedas. That was the standard practice, the standard traditional practice. Now, with the advent of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and our Srila Prabhupada, we have a situation where in the modern age, with the advent of the printing press and the advent of communications, the roles were a little reversed. Everyone is familiar with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's statement that the Briyat Mridanga is the most important mode of preaching. Srila Prabhupada used to often say, you can do kirtan with the Mridanga, and you can hear it for a few blocks, a few city blocks. But the Briyat Mridanga is the printing press, where you print literature, devotional literatures, authorized bona fide literatures, non-interpolated, non-adulterated literatures, and that's called the Briyat Mridanga. It goes all over the world. And this is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur started with, sending the first book about the life of Lord Chaitanya to McGill University in 1896. Srila Prabhupada was born in that year. Srila Prabhupada was born in that year. So it is quite significant that he started a transcendental revolution. So when Prabhupada used the word initiated, this is used in the sense of beginning. Initiation does not just mean an initiation ceremony. Initiation is the process that is described by Srila Prabhupada by quoting Srila Jiva Goswami and his Bhakti Sandarbha in the Nectar of Instruction, says, Divyam Jnanam yato dadyat kuryat papasya sankshayam tasmad dikshiti saproktesh deshikesh tatvako videi. And the meaning of this is that initiation means to impart transcendental knowledge. Divyam Jnanam yato dadyat. That transcendental knowledge Divyam Yanyan Tato that Kuryat Papatya Sangshayam. This is what destroys the sins and purifies the karma of the initiate, of the disciple. Sometimes there is a sentimental understanding that initiation, that the karma is taken up like some kind of a vacuum cleaner or some kind of an electrical shock. It is done by the transmission of transcendental knowledge from the bona fide authorized spiritual master to the disciple. How did Srila Prabhupada conduct initiations during his manifested presence? Now, those of you who were there during Prabhupada's manifested presence, you know that Srila Prabhupada did not personally, physically, was there for every initiation. Many times he started by 1972, 73, as so many people were joining the movement, people like GBCs or temple presidents, some sannyasis. Okay, somebody made a comment, the negative comments yesterday about ISKCON. We will deal with that a little bit later, Kanta Prabhu. Sometimes Prabhupada would depute or basically allow certain persons to chant on the beads, to give the name, and he would authorize the ceremony to be conducted by a disciple to do it on his behalf. And the understanding was that Prabhupada was the Acharya, he was the Guru, and these people were still his duly initiated disciples. Although physically he may not have been there during the initiation ceremony. Now, he conducted many of these initiation ceremonies himself. This is an unprecedented arrangement. Now, in this verse here, Prabhupada said, initiation from the spiritual masters, plural. He's obviously referring to instructions of the spiritual master. He's not specifically mentioning a fire sacrifice or a ceremony. So this topic of initiation has to be understood in its proper context. Many persons misunderstand that just the ceremony of initiation constitutes everything. No, there is a process. The process starts way before the initiation ceremony. In Sanskrit, it's called Purascharya. Srila Prabhupada describes that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where he explains that before we initiate candidates, they have to be in the temple for 6 months, chant the rounds, follow the regulative principles, engage in the program of purification, engage in the Samkirtan, engage in the sadhana, and when they're recommended by an authorized representative, like in the case of many times temple presidents, GBCs or sannyasis, Prabhupada, most of the time, like 99.9% of the time, would approve, and the person would be initiated. This was an unprecedented area in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Nobody ever did that before, to do initiation through various assistants or proxies or representatives, but to facilitate the preaching, to facilitate the progress and the expansion of the Krishna consciousness movement and the mission, the bona fide mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Prabhupada did that. And like that, he did so many new introductions. Now, this is a very important point because many people do not understand Prabhupada's practical application according to time, place, and circumstance. Several devotees when we were in Badger, California, Paranjan, myself, and Jagjivan, we compiled a little paper called Time, Place, and Circumstance, which basically deals with the various aspects of Srila Prabhupada's preaching, which had never been done before. A sannyasi engaged in matchmaker for his disciples and marrying his disciples. Sannyasis in India don't get involved like that. Allowing men and women to live in the same building. Allowing women to go on Samkirtan publicly in the streets. Allowing women to do arti. If you go to Tirupati, Udupi, Srirangam, Parthasarathi Temple in Madras, Rameshwaram, Badrinath, Rameshwaram, Dwarka, Jagannath Puri, Vrindavan. The women are not doing arti. It's the tradition in India that men do arti. Prabhupada turned that upside down. Women leading Sankirtan, women giving Bhagavatam class, women outside in the street preaching and distributing Bhagavatam in profuse numbers, doing amazing service. These were all unprecedented activities of the empowered Acharya, the Shakti Avesha Avatar. Shakti Avesha Avatar means that this person is especially, Shakti means power, Avesha means empowerment, Avatar means incarnation. These great acharyas like Madhva, Ramanuja, Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati or Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a magistrate, was a judge. No previous acharya had been a judge in the court. Bhaktisiddhanta started placing his disciples in marble palaces, using motor cars, wearing long coats. Most of the time before that, the acharyas wear Babaji dress or simple dress. Nobody dressed like Bhaktisiddhanta. Nobody took motor cars, even if they say there was no motor cars. But the point is, these acharyas introduced many ways and means to expand the preaching of Krishna consciousness, which were unprecedented before. This is a very important point because some critics say they follow the tradition. Of course, they're silent on this point, which tradition they follow and where they get their information about tradition. We follow the tradition of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON and the current Acharya of the Krishna Consciousness Movement. That is the follow. This is the person we follow and his original teachings. Now, many persons have different interpretation, and we respect that. People are entitled to their pious belief and their realizations and their basic experiences, many of them with Srila Prabhupada. But now that 46 years later, after Srila Prabhupada's departure, we have to be careful because now people are coming, oh, I was there, and Prabhupada told me that you can't do things that way, you can't do things. Oh, really? But when we check with Srila Prabhupada's teachings, when we verify whether or not these alleged encounters or so-called conversation with Prabhupada really happened, many times it comes out blank, zero. There are no entries. That's why it's best to check with Prabhupada's teachings itself. Because there could be many contradictory accounts. Somebody will say, yeah, Prabhupada appointed so-and-so. Somebody else will say, no, Prabhupada said, no, this is not correct. So we have to verify and discuss and debate on the basis of Prabhupada's books with proper understanding. There has to be correct understanding. First of all, we have to define. Just like if you go to law school and you practice law in a law firm, and many times in complex lease negotiations, commercial lease negotiations, before they start to discuss the lease itself, they'll have pages and pages of definitions. That in this document, lease shall mean this, the term shall mean this, indemnification shall mean this. There are so many different clear definitions which are agreed to by both parties. So in order to understand what is initiation, we have to go very deep into Srila Prabhupada's teaching. What is initiation? According to Prabhupada, not according to the neo-mats, not according to different advisors who were involved in disobedience of the order of their own guru, not according to different sampradayas, according to Prabhupada himself. Then we can get a clear understanding. It is not complicated. It is not difficult. It's not a big mystery of confusion. It only becomes confusion when people put themselves as absolute authorities on the basis of their managerial position. Those who were nominated as managers for the properties and the affairs of ISKCON should not conclude that they have become absolute authorities. And we've seen the result. Right from the start, these people insulted and blasphemed Srila Prabhupada by stating that they wrote the process of initiation according to consultation with higher authorities. Excuse me, you consulted with higher authorities than Prabhupada? You found some higher authorities in the Krishna conscious movement besides Srila Prabhupada? Did Srila Prabhupada ever give you the names of some so-called higher authorities besides himself in his movement, in his society? You can see where this leads. Once they start thinking that they've consulted with higher authorities, there's no end. It's a very slippery slope. You know, sometimes for those of you who live in Europe, in Switzerland, and in some parts of France, also in some parts in America, like Colorado, when there's a lot of snow, they will give advisory. Be very careful if you go on such and such road, there might be avalanche, des avalanches. Why? Because it's very dangerous. Once that snow starts to fall, there's tons and tons of wet snow that goes at pretty fast speeds. And if you're down a road below, you can get killed. Or if you're playing in the snow above, you can also get killed. So when people start speculating and thinking they know more than the spiritual master, that they can interpret whatever they want on the basis of a managerial position, this is what happens. They start insulting the Acharya, that they consulted with higher authorities. Of course, they've never been explained who these higher authorities are, what are their names, and what did they teach. Were they referring to themselves indirectly as higher authorities? Could be. Many of them still think like that they're big authorities. Never mind all the contradictions and the foolish talk that they have. When you start discussing everything from all angles of vision on a threadbare debate with no stop, I don't care if when Madhvacharya started his preaching, he converted some of the biggest Sanskrit scholars in India. At that time, these people were Advaitins, Mayavadis. He debated one such person for 15 days, 10 hours a day. No stop, 15 days, every single day. In our movement, you know what they'll tell you? Oh, we don't have time. The samosas are getting cold. Oh, really? Somebody had cooked a feast of samosas and kachoris and puris, and you don't have time to discuss these very important instructions of Srila Prabhupada? Never mind that you suppressed the publication of these instructions for almost 10 years after Srila Prabhupada's departure. Prabhupada's will was suppressed for 10 years after Prabhupada's departure. Discussions were nowhere. No discussion. Their idea is we've already discussed everything. Everything has already been discussed. This is the kind of people we are dealing with. Be aware. Why are we speaking like this? It's very clear. It's not difficult. And I'm going to read it again. It's one of my favorite passages from Srila Prabhupada. This is from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text number 42. Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 4, text number 42. This is a very important purport where Srila Prabhupada describes people who think that they've become big authorities on the basis of their physical, personal association with the Acharya. This is on page number 268 and page 269 of the unrevised, authorized Bhagavad Gita as it is. A bona fide spiritual master is in a disciplined succession from time eternal, and he does not deviate at all from the instructions of the Supreme Lord as they were imparted millions of years ago to the Sun God, from whom the instructions of Bhagavad Gita have come down to the earthly kingdom. One should therefore follow the path of Bhagavad Gita as it is expressed in the Gita itself, and beware of self-interested people after personal aggrandizement, who deviate others from the actual path. The Lord is definitely the supreme person, and his activities are transcendental. One who understands this is a liberated person from the very beginning of his study of the Gita. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 4th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of transcendental knowledge. Now, this is quite self-evident from Srila Prabhupada. And in the second part of the program, we will be discussing the point that was raised by Kanta Prabhu about some other group in South India. Now, I realize that there is no representative of this group here, and we don't want to engage in a long discussion about this. That's why I posted certain things in the beginning of the chat about the difference between Bhaktilata Bij and social Bij, political Bij, and philanthropic Bij. We will be discussing this a little bit later in the second part of the program. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. And going back to text number 2 in the purport of the Bhagavatam today, the chapter 6, there was an interesting point here that I wanted to reiterate. Vyasadeva himself was the disciple of Nārada, and therefore it is natural to be anxious to hear from him what he do after initiation from the spiritual master. So a very important question being raised here by Srila Prabhupada. And he answers, he wanted to follow Nārada's footprints in order to attain to the same perfect stage of life. The inquisitiveness of the disciple to inquire from the spiritual master is an essential factor to march progressively on the spiritual path. So this constant application of devotional service in the form of hearing is the key to success in Krishna consciousness. In other words, initiation, some people think, oh, I got initiated and now I'm liberated. But actually, as you mentioned, Yashodananda Prabhu, initiation means to start. And sometimes people think there's a lot of quotes in the Facebook world of if you simply read Prabhupada's books, you're initiated. So in certain circumstances, some people would never get association with devotees, so they would come to the conclusion, okay, I'll connect with the spiritual master in sound and serve him that way. That's, of course, a way to become connected. But at the same time, initiation in the ISKCON movement, when Prabhupada started, had a specific procedure that we followed. That initially people would come to the temple and they would serve in the temple for a minimum of 6 months. Now, so the person had the title Bhakta, Bhakta Bob, Bhakta Ron, Bhakta Bill, like that. Bhaktin Marie, Bhaktin Ann, like that. And then if they showed the signs that they were serious about spiritual life, then, and they conducted themselves accordingly with devotional service, they got recommended for initiation to start the process. So you start with, you're a bhakta or a bhaktin, and then you serve under the supervision of, in the circumstances in ISKCON, back then, you would serve under the temple president and his team. And then you got recommended. You became acknowledged as very serious. Then we sent the name in to Srila Prabhupada, and he would, as Yashoda mentioned, you would be accepted. Prabhupada would accept on the basis that the people that he's put in charge would know the difference between somebody that's sincere and someone that's an imposter. So then you got your name, your first initiation name, and that would begin the process. And then you had to go through another period. If you wanted Brahminical initiation, you would have to go through a year or a year and a half of review by your godbrothers again and by the temple president. And this way, if you lived up to the standard of chanting your rounds, attending the programs, serving selflessly, then you got second initiation, a Brahminical initiation. So it was a qualification process, and it was formal. Formality is very important. It's like Ram Raghava. When you get married, do you just go and say, "Oh, I'm married to you"? No. And she says, "Oh, yeah, okay, we're married." Oh, you can get a common law marriage. Yes, in modern society, people get that. But you go before the court and you sign a marriage certificate. It's a formal. And it's not only formal, it's legal. In other words, when you get a divorce, guess what happens? Your wife gets half of your property. Yes, it's like that. So it's serious. And that's understandable because the governments want that the marriage is serious and the people stay committed. And the way you do it is to put these laws in order, in place. So initiation is very important. And it's a formal commitment in front of the fire, in front of the Vaishnavas, in front of the deities. Yes. And people that take it whimsically, that's not good. If you get first and second initiation, we are conducting initiations. And on the 8th, we had initiation with 3 new Prabhupada disciples. And it was done in coordination with Krishna Kishore in Mexico. And Yashodananda Prabhu gave the names, and Krishna Kishore came to Mexico to where I was staying, and we walked together, and I chanted on the beads for these people because Prabhupada wasn't physically here. But we did the same system, and we insisted that these people remain serious about their relationship with Srila Prabhupada and with this association that we're setting up or have set up to continue this process of initiation. And a lot of people criticize it. They say, no, it's not possible to do this. Well, we have personal experience of this, and we're also being diligent to make sure that people that do get initiation are humble. They don't blaspheme each other. They don't criticize each other. They remain in a humble state of mind and continually work together cooperatively to spread the Sankirtan movement with this group. Sure, there are many different groups that are around and they're claiming initiation. And you're entitled to do that. You can, as some people think, well, I got initiated in a dream. I had a mother, she said, I asked her, how did you get initiated? She said, I dreamt that Prabhupada came to me and gave me my name and I became a disciple. And then she's going after and breaking the rules and regulations constantly in confusion. So this is whimsical. This is serious. And we want to thank everybody that's got initiation by the grace of the devotees in this association, and they're following the process strictly and trying their best to live up to a very high standard. And we have the rules, Ram Raghava. I wanted to send them to you. I'll send them for next week. Of all the rules that we have set up for people to follow, excuse me, in order to get this recommendation for initiation, and then after to carry on in the process of devotional service with a commitment to Prabhupada in the mission that we have, to protect his legacy, to print and publish books, and to encourage each other to remain fixed up. That's the purpose of these programs, by the way, is to get association. We have all of these nice devotees, Arjuna, Joe Felice, with Jiva Goswami, Susan Shepherd, all of you are followers of Prabhupada, and we hope that some of you will eventually come forward and look for an initiation. And we encourage that. If you're not that serious about it, then continue on following. It's quite all right, because that's how you begin to mature in your spiritual life. You mature, you get better. You become more convinced. The more you hear, the more you associate with first-class devotees, people that are surrendered as best as they can to the process, excuse me, of Krishna consciousness and following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada. Because the main problem in this society is sound pollution. That's what people are most affected by. And this sound pollution comes in the form of prajalpa, people talking, rumor mongering, criticizing, fault finding, talking nonsense, talking trivia, talking politics, talking all kinds of things. And in this way, their consciousness becomes polluted. But in our association, we're very fixed on Prabhupada's messages. And you can hear Yashodanandana Prabhu in the conversations that we have. He repeats Prabhupada's names hundreds of times in his talk. We're constantly focused on Prabhupada as the spokesperson. We're not trying to give our opinion. You have to give your expression, Rama Raghava. You give your expression of your realization. And it's based on Prabhupada's words. This is how you do it. Like, for example, in the lectures that we listen to, I know when I'm always listening to the lectures, I'm thinking, I'm listening to Prabhupada, I'm going, that's a wonderful example. I have to remember to repeat that, not change it. That's what's going on. These people are becoming bridge preachers, like this person in Silicon Valley. He's a motivational speaker. He's like a Tony Robbins. Well, he has all the scriptures and he tries to support his statements through using Prabhupada's words to justify his position of making disciples. So very important that everybody is on the same page in terms of understanding initiation and the formality, the seriousness of it, and the commitment that is expected in this community of Vaishnavas to serve the mission of protecting the legacy of Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, in his books and in his speech and in his teachings. Yashodanandana Prabhu, if you could further continue.
These are very important issues because we see there's so much misunderstanding about this topic. And whenever we try to have serious discussion with various members of the official institution or sympathizers, many persons have great difficulty dealing with this because the focus that they're presenting is not based on Srila Prabhupada. It's a sort of he said, she said, so-and-so senior devotee said. They have so many different other advisors advising them on so many issues, which are not from Srila Prabhupada. So it makes things very difficult. Now, to come back a little bit to the point that was raised by Kanta Prabhu about another group in South India that is doing food distribution, which they sometimes call prasadam distribution. It is basically our position at HKS and PDA is not to comment on other groups. We're not going to attack and criticize another group based upon their circumstances. We realize that this particular group is under litigation and attack from the deep state and the ISKCON swamp. And as such, it may be reasons, whether or not it's a public relations program or whatever reasons may be for that program. Basically, let me just give a little bit of historical circumstances, how food prasadam distribution started in ISKCON. Right from the beginning in 1966, Prabhupada was distributing prasadam, cooking prasadam himself, and he would cook and he would feed the devotees. Then gradually he trained devotees. The first person was Kirtananda Swami, Keith Ham, trained him to cook, and gradually devotees were being trained by Srila Prabhupada how to prepare and offer the prasadam. Prabhupada had specific method of offering the prasadam. This is well documented in some of our preaching and articles. And then what happened is that in Los Angeles and San Francisco in 1970 with Karandar Keshava was Karandar's brother, Jayananda, Bhutatma, and people like Partrikananda, Sarvabhauma, Mahabu. This is where they started in San Francisco, the book distribution, big book distribution, and prasadam distribution. Jayananda was one of the first men who started public distribution of prasadam. Now, in ISKCON at that time, when you distributed prasadam, you had books. A lot of time you had kirtan. You always had cards. You not just give food. You gave them prasadam that was offered and prepared by duly initiated Brahmins. And the prasadam was brought out in the public, given to them, and we would preach to the people. I personally went on prasadam distribution with Jayananda in Keshava. We would give them cards. We would give them little books. We would give them these little pamphlets like Who is Crazy, the Peace Formula, things like that, the chanting of the Maha Mantra. And people would take the prasadam. That was how prasadam was distributed. And eventually, when they had the prasadam vans, the Maha Mantra was there, ISKCON's name was there, the name of Krishna was there. In other words, along with the distribution of prasadam was active preaching according to Prabhupada standards. If you have a food distribution that does not involve preaching, where you are prevented by the government from saying Hare Krishna, from having Prabhupada's picture or Krishna's picture or distributing Bhagavad Gita, what kind of program is this? This is like in the fourth canto of the Bhagavatam, when Maharaj Vena forgave the Brahmin. No, you can't chant Vedic mantras, you can't have sacrifices, you can't preach. Why are we submitting ourselves to this nonsense secularism, which is quasi-atheism? This is not proper. We should not compromise with people who dictate that you can't chant Hare Krishna, you can't distribute the name of Krishna, you can't distribute the books of Krishna and the message of the pure devotee. Vishwakarma, maybe you are temple president, maybe you can comment on how prasadam was distributed in your zone, in your area.
Well, I'd like to just make a quick comment, and then we'll move to our panel, of course. But when you brought up, these points are very, very relevant to the idea of prasadam distribution. And I can say this, that Kanta, we used to go on street Harinam on Saturdays. We'd have a Maha Sankirtan program in Toronto, and a lot of times the devotees from Montreal, Nandikeshwar, would come down with a group of devotees in vans, and we'd have 50 people go on Harinam, 50 people on Yonge Street, and we'd go up and down the street. Like the Toronto group, we intermingle, but the Toronto group would go down and the Montreal group would come up. and then you turn around that bluer and you'd spin around like this. It was back and forth all day. It was amazing, Ram Raghava, how we used to be so committed to this. Everybody saw the Hare Krishnas. Now, what did we do for prasadam distribution at Ram Raghava? We made Simply Wonderfuls. You remember that? And the devotees would work in the kitchen and assemble these sweets. And we bring them out in baskets. And we go up and down the streets and hand out Simply Wonderfuls on Yonge Street, give them cards to invite them to the Sunday feast, and then entertain them with the chanting of the holy name. And this way, we surcharged the whole city of Toronto. Because remember, the city is one of the most important cities in the world, Toronto City. And we would gloriously transmit the transcendental vibration of the holy name and distribute prasadam, distribute invitations to the Sunday feast, and distribute books all at the same time, all day. And it would spiritualize the whole city. So this was the Sankirtan method of distribution. And then we'd invite people to come to the temple. And then on Sundays, we would make the big feast. And then eventually we bought the big temple, and now it's a mecca for people from the East Indian community to go there. I'm not sure if the prasadam is offered properly or cooked properly by the members there, but nonetheless, this is going on. So I hope that gives you some insight. And we've got our panel, when we got Dharma Bhavana from Dallas, Texas, who's a weekly participant in our discussion, and we'd like him to make a comment for us here at the Prabhupada Disciples Association meeting. Dharma Bhavana.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Yeah, I was just reflecting back, we all became devotees under a little bit different circumstances and now in the 1970s. And as far as the initiation of, protocols, arrangements, I don't remember ever that there was any really complaints about it. It seemed to work smoothly. Prabhupada gave some, and everybody accepted it, some idea, hey, you can take initiation, you work with your local temple authorities. It created a sense of cooperation. It created a sense of, sadhana bhakti with all the different persons who, in a few cases, lived at home, and most all the cases went to the whole morning program and worked all day, and evening program. And it was real easy to, quickly in a few weeks, kind of learn what the whole process was about. And it kept intact all the scriptural injunctions, even though somebody may complain about that, but it doesn't say in the scriptures. The main thing is to take a initiation, accept the leadership of a bona fide spiritual master who's living in the spiritual world, free from the material modes of nature. So all the different real scriptural injunctions were intact, and it was just convenient. A lot of things Prabhupada did were just convenient. The only time I remember any kind of explanation given about some of the details was that there was one letter commented sending the beads for the mail from India to America to South America was too expensive, and it was inconvenient for Prabhupada. So he just asked the local devotees to take up that part of chanting on the beads. So it became a method of just keeping all the scriptural injunctions intact. It made sense, and it was just convenient. So I wanted to read something a little bit, if that's okay. Something I find a little bit encouraging. There's so many discouraging things in the material world now, and you're 20 by 24. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Majjhima Lila, chapter 4. Text 79. Majjhima Lila, chapter 4, text 79. And just kind of in the purport right in the middle, it starts off, Yatra Yogeshvara Krishna, Yatra Parto Danurdaraha, Tatrashir Vijayo Bhutir, Dhruva Nirtir Matir Mama. Wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, There will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, immorality. That is my opinion. Bhagavad Gita 1878. If the preachers in our Krishna consciousness movement are sincere devotees of Krishna, Krishna will always be with them because he is very kind and favorable to all his devotees. Just as Arjuna and Krishna were victorious in the battle of Kurukshetra, this Krishna consciousness movement will surely emerge victorious if we but remain sincere devotees of the Lord and serve the Lord according to the advice of predecessors, 6 Goswamis and other devotees of the Lord. As Narottam Das Thakur has stated, Tandera Chavana Sevi Bhakta Sani Vas, Janme Janme Hoy Ayabilas. The Krishna consciousness devotees must always desire to remain in the society of devotees. Bhakta Sani Vas, they cannot go outside the Krishna consciousness society or the movement. Within the society, we must try to serve the predecessors by preaching Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult and spreading his name and fame all over the world. If we attempt this seriously, within the society, it'll be successfully done. There is no question of estimating how this will happen in the mundane sense. Without a doubt, it happens by the grace of Krishna. Haribol, thank you.
Yes, this is a very interesting point. I'll just make a quick comment. A lot of people, they criticize us because we say, well, we went outside the Krishna consciousness ISKCON movement. But the fact of the matter is that when the people within the movement create so many offenses against Srila Prabhupada, then it becomes intolerable for many of us. It was intolerable to be in that association. For example, we had this fellow Kirtananda in Toronto. Now Ram Raghava, he brought a German shepherd into the temple, a dog. And he was also demanding that, and Gopal Krishna as well, that we bow down in front of him. Now, it was absolutely abominable. These people were not qualified to accept this. They were being offensive to us as their peers. And this type of situation became intolerable. Now, there are many other situations. There are thousands of other offenses that have been committed since then, and against Srila Prabhupada blatantly by these people. Like, for example, in Toronto, the guru there, he referred to the deities as statues. These statues. And he insisted, I have direct information of this, of course, that there was a Hindu wedding being conducted in the temple. They were paying thousands of dollars to the temple as a donation so they could get, and they insisted that the doors of the deities after the arti at 12:30 be left open, which had never been done before. They be left open so these people could have their ceremony in front of the deities in the temple room. And then the reference was to the statues. Let them see the statues. This is intolerable. So in this type of environment, we have recreated the Krishna consciousness movement based on Prabhupada's Vani incarnation. And that's how we're carrying on and enjoying association with like-minded devotees. I'm going to ask... yes, go ahead.
Can I share something?
Please, by all means. Yes, thank you.
I'd like to share something about what you mentioned, Simply Wonderfuls.
Yeah.
Lecture in Los Angeles, July 20th, 1971. I was asked after a lecture, any question? And a devotee named Nanda Kishore asked, what happens to a person if we just give him out on the street one Simply Wonderful or some prasadam, one piece of prasadam? Prabhupada, that is wonderful, simply wonderful. Laughter. He has not tasted such wonderful sweet in his life. Therefore, you give him wonderful. And because he's eating that wonderful sweet, one day he'll come to your temple and become wonderful. Devotees, Jai, Prabhupada. Therefore, it is simply wonderful. So go on distributing the simply wonderful. Your philosophy is simply wonderful. And your Krishna is simply wonderful. The whole process of simply wonderful. And he acts wonderfully, and it is acting wonderfully. Who can deny it? Devotees, Prabhupada is simply wonderful. So I wanted to share that with you since you mentioned simply wonderful. And also earlier, Bhakta Karan had a question about the significance of the word, plural word, spiritual masters in the purport of the Bhagavatam verse that we read.
Go ahead, comment on that, please. Was there a further?
He was asking if Yashodanandan Prabhu or yourself could comment on the significance of the plural spiritual masters.
Oh, Yashodanandana, please.
Yeah, I basically dealt upon that to impress the point that Srila Prabhupada uses the term initiation and spiritual master, singular and plural, in many different contexts. Because in this particular context, what it is obviously referring to, they initiated him into transcendental knowledge. There's no reference to a fire sacrifice or an initiation ceremony. It is basically a situation where they gave him instruction on the science of bhakti yoga, and that is considered his initiation. Srila Prabhupada many times used that word in many different contexts at different times. So basically, it's a pretty unique situation, because usually a person takes initiation from one spiritual master. So in this particular situation, it's described that he was initiated by several spiritual masters. Very unique. Hare Krishna.
We've got Puranjana in California. Maybe, Prabhu, you could share some realizations at today's panel discussion. Hare Krishna. Let's see if he can get on. He's always...
Hi, Bo.
Oh, there he is, immediately on. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hi, Bo. Yeah, I got some questions from some quote-unquote uninitiated people.
Mm-hmm.
And we were having a big discussion about initiation. And they are in a situation where they're not near an ISKCON temple, they're not near a Ritvik temple, they're not really near any program that gives Diksha. So my explanation to them is Diksha means Divyam Jnanam that destroys sins. D is Divyam Jnanam, Ksha means to destroy sins. So if you're accepting the Divyam Jnanam, then de facto you are initiated. To initiate means to start. You initiate an action. So you've already started by chanting and reading Prabhupada's books. You've already surrendered to his process. And I said, by the way, you are following better, you guys who are supposedly not initiated, you're following better than many of the so-called initiated. Many of the initiated around here in San Francisco, well, they don't follow very well. And one of the very senior devotees who was with Prabhupada in the early days and all that, and he comes to the Berkeley Temple and advertises himself as a big, personal associate of Prabhupada, which he was. But when you're 40 feet away from him, you can smell severe pot smoke smell, coming, just emanating from this person. So he's obviously, smoking a ton of pot. So he was initiated, formally and all that stuff. But initiation is not just the external formality. It is the internal process of accepting Prabhupada and his instructions. That is the real essence. It's not just throwing a banana into a fire, ceremony, an external ceremony. And we see that also in the Catholic Church. They get involved in all these external ceremonials, and some of the people giving the external ceremonials are not following anything. So it's basically an internal process. You have to absorb the Divyam Jnanam, and then you are initiated, and then you're on your way to Krishna. And the formality is good. We need the formality also to be practical. We need initiated people to do the puja in the temple and that type of thing. I mean, Prabhupada also wanted that to be done practically, but in our current situation, it's like an emergency. We just can't have people getting initiated formally the way it was done previously. So now we just have to tell people to absorb themselves in Prabhupada's materials and follow his process and consider themselves to be his initiated followers, even if you don't have the formal ceremony at the present time. So they agreed. They thought that was good, a good explanation. And one last thing I wanted to say: this Amogalila guy, he's a big representative of ISKCON in India. He was on TV recently. I just posted the video. You can see it. It gets very heated. You know, he's asked by the moderator of the TV show, why is there so much child molesting going on in your ISKCON society? And you can see he's really very, very argumentative and all that stuff. And he gives a bunch of bogus explanations. It's in Hindi, but someone translated it for me, and they just said he's just giving completely wrong explanations. But the point I'm making is that this issue and many issues like that are catching up with them. They're catching up and they're being confronted more and more and more. And that's just going to continue. They have to confront these issues. And if they don't, it's just going to make them look bad in the public and they're just going to be exposed more. So that's all I wanted to say, Haribol.
Thank you. Yeah, that was excellent. And we're going to wind up the program, and thank you, everyone. And we'll call on Yashoda to give a final comment. But I wanted to say that we are encouraging people. We do initiate people. Yes, we do. And but we're taking it very seriously, Paranjana, that anybody that's coming forward and is wanting initiation has to follow different rules and regulations that have been given by Prabhupada. And we also include the participation in our weekly sadhana program of classes. We don't have a 7-day program of class, but we have 3 days, which is about 4.5 hours. It actually gets on to 5.5 hours nowadays of discussion and amongst each other on the philosophy of Krishna consciousness based on our understanding of how Prabhupada wanted us to approach spiritual life on his directions. And people say, well, you're constantly repeating. We're not constantly repeating this focus on Prabhupada because we concocted it. If you really start to study these books seriously, these topics are constantly being reiterated and repeated by Srila Prabhupada on every page. And people try to shoot the postman. We're simply delivering the message and making it very clear that if you don't accept Prabhupada in his transcendental presence, in his Vani incarnation, you do not understand this philosophy. You don't. You're confused. And this kind of confusion has contaminated the whole disciplic succession. And we call it the ISKCON deep state of misinformation and deception. And it is going to be challenged by us at every step as we move forward. Yashodanandana Prabhu, if you could give a concluding word.
Well, thank you very much. I want to address one point before we conclude today. There seemed to be a slight misunderstanding of some comments that were made yesterday during another group in South India that has a food distribution program. They call it a prasadam distribution program. And unfortunately, because of the situation in India where the government dictates under a secular policy that this program, you can't chant Hare Krishna, you cannot distribute Bhagavad Gita, you cannot put Prabhupada's picture or Krishna's pictures on the van distributing, you can't distribute anything related to Krishna because they say it's secular, so therefore everybody has to have, it's a quasi-atheism, not on the part of the temple there, on the part of the government authorities and the different groups. So it's like Prabhupada never advocated that our preaching should be controlled by government, secular governments. We preach. And that's why I said earlier that when the prasadam distributed was started in San Francisco and Los Angeles by Karandar and Keshava and Jayananda and these devotees, every time the prasadam was distributed, we went out, they would distribute Bhagavad Gitas, they would distribute cards, they would distribute prasadam. It was well known that these are Hare Krishnas. The name was on the van, the Maha Mantra, books were being distributed. It was not just food distribution to make a better country, to give a better education. No, there is a philosophy behind this. We don't just distribute food or open hospitals or no. I put up today a conversation with Mr. Jethmalani, who was a member of parliament in India, with this exact issue about social service and helping people. And Srila Prabhupada gave a beautiful explanation. And I encourage anybody who is serious about this topic. This is a conversation in Bombay, India, on April 16th, 1977. April 16th, 1977, where Mr. Jethmalani asked Srila Prabhupada about social service. He says, how is it that the Bhagavad Gita does not emphasize public service? There's no emphasis on public social service. Prabhupada, where it is, tell me. You must give evidence. You're a lawyer. Ram Jethmalani, no. Prabhupada, where does it say? Ram Jethmalani, no. Why there's no emphasis? Prabhupada, there is no need. This is animal conception of life. The dog also combined together and makes. Ba, 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 ba. A human being also can do like that. Then where is the difference between animal and human being? Ram Jethmalani. But I don't know that animals, on the contrary, serve each other. It is men who do. Prabhupada, what is the use of serving? What you can do? What service you have done? You cannot do anything beyond the laws of nature. Now Indira is in difficulty. What can you do? In one day, everything is finished. The law of nature is so strict, you cannot do anything. You are falsely proud that you want to do. It is not possible. Prakrite kriyamanani gune karmani sarvashaha. Bhagavad Gita 3:27. You can only do the service that you are not this body, you are spirit soul, your business is this. This is Dharma. And then Prabhupada went on, and later on, we don't say like that. We say that here is the remedy for rectifying your suffering, Krishna consciousness, come to it. We don't say that you suffer. We say stop your suffering in this way. I humbly suggest and respectfully suggest to all the people that are advocating food distribution to give people a better education, to make a better country, to understand what Prabhupada is saying. There are many references in Prabhupada's teachings that he did not support this idea of school opening, hospital opening. We're not against these things, but this is not the purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement and Srila Prabhupada's preaching approach. We have to understand, especially when people are putting up pictures of a prominent Mayavadi in India with his pictures all over their program recommending his statements. No, that is not to be done. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Yes, thank you. And I wanted to point out, Ram Raghava, just as we end up and go to the last sections of the program, that dissension is welcome amongst our group, because you deal with dissension, like disagreement in a certain sense philosophically, so there can be discussion and then a clarification and understanding of the philosophy of Srila Prabhupada and how to deal with matters. And we, as a group, do critically examine, and with the leadership of Yashodanandana Prabhu, who has an extensive understanding of the whole story of Srila Prabhupada's mission, in his letters, in his books, in his lectures. This way, this critical analysis is important for all of us as a group to understand exactly the mission of Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So thank you, everyone. And don't forget, we'll be back on Thursday night for Chaitanya Charitamrita reading and discussion. And this is a 3-class program. You can go to Hare Krishna Society online, subscribe, and get other people to subscribe and let them enjoy the transcendental discussions that we have in our community of devotees online at your convenience. And subscribe. Yes, subscribe. We want more people to subscribe. And don't forget, if you're interested in donating money to help us with our book publications, please feel free to reach out and we'll give you the access so you can do it. And thank you, everyone, for being a part of this transcendental Zoom meeting today. Hare Krishna. Let's go to the kirtan. It's 2.5 minutes, Prabhus. So please chant along. The Prabhupada will lead.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Let us offer a respectful obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances. We all offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desired trees, and we're full of compassion for the fallen souls. Thanks, everybody, for participating in this lively program of reading and discussion. Sometimes we call it a class. And thanks, Vishwakarma Prabhu in Hamilton, Ontario, Rochita Mataji in Montreal, Canada, Kanta Prabhu, I believe, in Trinidad or wherever he's traveling. He travels all around the world quite frequently. And especially our manager, Rupesh Prabhu in Bombay, India, and Ram Ragama Prabhu in Georgia, somewhere. I don't know exactly where you are, but thank you very much for helping to host this program. Thanks, Vijay Pandit in Italy, Pierangelo in Switzerland, and everybody participating. Please join us on Thursday afternoon, and we will continue the discussion. I want to point out on behalf of Vishwakarma and myself, we are not against the Vaishnava devotees in South India and Bangalore. We just want to clarify. We're trying to present Srila Prabhupada's instruction in their pure and original form. There's a clear distinction between the pure bhakti that Prabhupada has presented and social service and philanthropic service. Our focus, all of us, should be to present Prabhupada's instruction and preaching according to the method and standards which he has given. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Looking forward to see all of you Thursday, 5:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 8:00 p.m. Montreal and Hamilton, Ontario time and Florida time. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.